Hey, if you're a telesales agent selling final expense or other kind of insurance, you've got to listen to this video. I've got a great new tool that has done wonders for the Dig agency when it comes to getting more connections with your leads. I have Mr. David Gable and Aldo Barba Giovanni on from Kixie.com, which is a great tool. You're going to learn more about it in a minute, and we're going to give you some practical uses of it. We have Tim Hildebrand, our telesales trainer, on, who's going to kind of give you some perspective as well. Again, if you're selling over the phone, there's all sorts of tools you need to be successful, and getting people to pick up the phone is hugely important. And you're going to find Kixie is amazing for it. So, David, greetings and salutations. Why don't you give us a rundown of Kixie and a little introduction about yourself too?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to. So my name is David Gable. I'm the head of sales for Kixie, a software company in Santa Monica, California. Aldo is a lead in the product team over here at Kixie. And we want to jump on today. Your podcast is so cool because most of the time you guys are giving the audience a bunch of killer like tips and tricks, strategies for really how to be successful in insurance sales and sales in general. And so I think we're mixing it up a little bit today. We get to come in and give you a tool instead of a tactic. But luckily, we've got Tim on board on the call as well, who can supply some tactics around the tool to make the conversation less boring. Because the last thing I want this to feel like is just kind of rote product, dumping where I'm just like, oh, these are a list of the features we have. This is why you should buy the product and kind of move on. I think the goal here, whether you end up buying Kixie or not, or even look into it or not, is really to give you guys an idea of what's out there in terms of the technological landscape. Like, what's the most advanced technology that people are using to be successful in sales right now? Because that's really what we do. So we at Kixie work with like top salespeople and top sales gurus. Like, if you ever heard of Grant Cardone or Jordan Belfort or all those guys, they come to Kixie and they use our platform to sell sales technology to other salespeople. And because of that, we have to be kind of top of the market. So this gives you an idea of what's out there. And to do that, we combine really three different types of platforms, three disparate platforms, all rolled together in one, so that they can leverage each other, so there can be some synergy between them. So the first type of platform that we are, and that we embody, is really an integrated dialing platform. Now, I say integrated because it means it connects directly with your CRM, in this case, High Level, which, by the way, awesome CRM. I actually brought my co-branded Kixie High Level hat with me today because it's an amazing CRM. And what's cool about it is if you're using a tool like Kixie or any other integrated dialer, you can call directly out of the CRM. Aldo's going to show you all this, so it's not just me telling you. All your calls are going to automatically be recorded, and those recordings stored in the CRM, because the last thing you want to do is spend half your time on the phone and half your time writing down what you said on the phone or typing it into a CRM. It's the worst thing in the world. Half your time is now spent doing non-productive admin work that you probably hate as a salesperson. So we're that, and a full enterprise level phone system. So inbound call routing, ring groups, a lot of stuff we probably won't spend much time on today, but just know that we can do it. The second type of platform we are is a texting and a text automation platform. And we know that's important because we spend so much time on text these days. I mean, a lot of people, a good subset of people, do not want to get on the phone unless you've already texted them probably and told them, hey, do you want to jump on a call? They want some preamble over text. And so we can do that either individually. You can text right out of the same CRM that you're already using, or you can automate text based off of events, which is really cool. We'll get into it, but that's stuff like every time someone fills out some gated content, downloads a podcast like this very one, maybe from your website, signs up for more information, you're automatically texting them that second to get on a phone call with them. Or maybe you miss a call and an automatic text message goes back out saying, hey, sorry, I missed your call. Probably stuck on another call, but I'd love to talk to you. Here's my Calendly link. Otherwise, I'll call you back as soon as I'm off this call. That kind of thing. So calling platform, texting platform. The last one, a mass dialing platform. So I figured this is almost going to be the most impactful for a podcast like this because my heart goes out to you guys, everyone listening to this. You have a ton of leads and a limited amount of time. Sometimes it seems like, I mean, especially if you're not too picky about the kind of leads, there's more leads than you could ever possibly get to with the time that you have. And so it's really about maximizing the time you're dialing and minimizing the time that's spent dialing as opposed to the time that's spent talking. And so what we can do is we can dial up to 10 lines at a time, only connect you with the person who picks up. Those of you who've been in the game for a while, like Tim, might know this is a multi-line dialer. We can do that while integrating it with the CRM, which is awesome. And we can add a bunch of cool dialing features that we'll kind of land on that are like outside the norm. For instance, you can dial with a local area code number of whoever you're calling that also has been screened for spam. We have a whole spam prevention algorithm that basically runs all of these phone numbers across the 4 major mobile carriers to ensure that they're not showing up as spam or potential spam on iMessage, and that your calls actually go through, because that's kind of increasingly a problem at the same time as you're dialing 10 lines at a time. And if anyone dials those numbers back, even though they're a local number that isn't technically yours, the call gets routed back to you. And to take it one step even further, that number will rotate. So if you're trying to get a hold of someone and that someone is like me and they're on meetings like this all the time, you can dial them 4 or 6 times. And I've been guilty of this myself throughout the day. And if you did that with your standard issue phone number, they would never call you again. 4 or 6 dials in a single day, there's no way. But if that number is randomizing each time with a local area code number, then whenever they happen to pick up, boom. It's as if you'd called them the first time and had just impeccable timing and happened to catch them between lunch and the next meeting. So, yes.
Yeah. So to summarize here, number one, if you guys are using a Go High level variant CRM in the insurance space, basically every CRM is based off of Go High level. Kixie can integrate with those platforms, correct?
Correct. Super easily.
Number two, we have a texting feature as well. And then number three, really, I think, like you said, the multi-line dialer to call multiple leads at a time to be more effective and efficient with your leads. But I want to bring Tim here on because I think this is where we have just been floored with the results from Kixie. What's the biggest problem in this business? It's not the people who say no. It's the people who are maybes. They never pick up the phone, right?
Yeah.
And what Kixie has done for our team has greatly elevated the number of maybes turned into yeses, meaning we're getting more connections now than we had ever been using other dialers and maybe the standard issue calling system that Go High Level has. So Tim, can you kind of tell us about that? Because I think this is really important. And to me is the biggest reason why you guys out there selling insurance should be seriously looking at Kixie. What have you seen, Tim, as we started Kixie with connection rates, et cetera?
Yeah, compared to the standard Go High level phone, that phone is trash compared to what we're doing on Kixie. Like actual trash. If you're on the standard Go High level phone, you need to upgrade your game a lot. And just by literally getting Kixie and having them integrated into your CRM, there's for connection rates, David, I can tell you that it's hard for somebody on a standard single line dialer to even get anywhere near 30 to 40% of their leads on the phone ever.
Right.
Because you can't move fast enough and you can't dial enough. So we're, oddly enough, in most states, the TCPA max is 9 dials a day. And we're easily doing that. So the cool thing with Kixie is that it's always local and it seems to almost always be a different phone number. So they kind of don't know that, that we were dialing them 9 times a day, which is really dope because you kind of don't want that stigma. But we'll take it. We'll get anybody on the phone, Dave. They'll be yelling at us. We'll calm them down and try to keep them on the phone. But it just has made the initial conversation much, much easier. And we're able to, we're consistently getting around 66 to 70% of our total leads on the phone. So that's a major gain right there, at least a doubling. And then we have other metrics down the line that Kixie really helps us with. But getting them on the phone via text messaging and just dialing on a 3-line dialer when you have enough cannon fodder, which by the way isn't that many leads. Maybe you're only buying 75 leads a week. You can use a 3-line dialer just fine. And by 3 lines, if anybody doesn't know, I'm sure there's some folks in there who are out there who haven't figured this out, but we're calling 3 people at once and the first one to pick up wins. That's just the way it works. And it's really, really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, David, pop in here because I'm thinking of the newer agent. We get a lot of newer agents watching, and I don't think they understand how prominent the spam likely telemarketer likely stuff is. And this is Kixie's approach to this has just completely demolished everything else we've ever used because you guys avoid this by how you rotate the number. So can you talk about that? Because I think new agents have to understand why not just pick up the cell phone and just dial? So yeah.
And what's interesting, you know, I'll make as an interesting inside game note too. You know, so I'm the head of sales at Kixie. For the first 4 years at Kixie, we didn't have that multi-line dialing component. And I could not build an outbound BDR team, which is an outbound dialing sales team, that was cost efficient enough to be profitable without it. Just dialing single lines, it never worked out. Every time I tried to put a team together and we actually made the calls and closed the business, and when I did the math and all the payouts, and we're in California, which doesn't help for, and at the end of the day, taxes and everything, it was not profitable. We could not do it until we finally had a multi-line dialer, and now we have a thriving outbound team. But until then, it was inbound or it was channel. That was all we had. Yeah. And spam does not help at all. So it's interesting to take it back. Like, there was a point in time, if some of you guys remember out there, when bulk emailing was the thing. I remember there was a time when we thought phone calls were dead, and all you had to do was wake up in the morning, queue up like 1,000 emails, push send. They all went out. Everything got delivered to people's inboxes. They actually read the emails, and like business just came back to you. It was amazing. Everyone thought the phone is dead. And then spam detection and inboxes came out, and that kind of just blasted that whole game to smithereens, right? There was no way you could say, I mean, if you try and do that right now, send out 10,000 emails on Google, your account will just get locked. Right. It'd lock your account immediately, right? There's no way that will happen. Unfortunately, so everyone moved to phone. Well, first everyone moved to texting, and now people are moving back to phone because what's happening with texting, Tim mentioned it, there's all this 10 DLC stuff and regulations around that too. And now phone calls, what's happening? Well, now the mobile carriers are getting smart and doing the same thing those email inboxes did, which is start to discern between what's a spam call, a business call, an unwanted call, and what's a wanted call from a friend or family or whatever. And what's difficult about it, not to get too in the weeds, but it's interesting stuff. I like geeking out on this stuff, is that each mobile carrier has its own algorithm that does its own determination as to what inbound call is spam likely or not. And whenever you get a call you don't like, if you push spam call, it sends it back to the carrier to report that number as spam, which is unraveling that is tough. But we spend a lot of time on it, and we have, among other things, so it's this whole proprietary algorithm. So I'm careful about how much detail I give, but I'll say this: we validate it. So we've got this whole algorithm that is been built to combat the 4 major mobile carriers, really 3 because Sprint combined with T-Mobile, but essentially what it's doing is it's going to run each of these. We have a phone number bank, about 10,000 phone numbers, if you decide to opt into it. And those 10,000 numbers are being used to dial across these mobile carriers every day, every 24 hours. We get the feedback back from the mobile carriers. We determine whether or not the number is likely spam or whatever. We give a percentage score. And we validate it by having, we literally have a bank of phones, like physical phones, all these cell phones in a row, arrayed out, and it will automatically dial and validate it against those bank of phone numbers with a camera facing it that actually validates for imaging. It's pretty cool. It's a cool little kind of job that we've done to just because it's so important. Because at the end of the day, if your number gets tagged as spam and that's your primary business number that people know you for, what a pain, man. Because there's no easy way to get that unspammed, unmarked. Right. You know, it's tainted now for life. So opting into a platform like ours allows you to use these rotating bank of numbers, keeps yours pristine. You can always use your individual number to dial out if you want to. But in the meantime, it's safe, almost like a VPN for your phone number. And you have higher connection rate anyway because you're dialing from local area code numbers. So that's kind of the cool thing about it.
Yeah, I should mention that is on the top of my list of reasons why. I love the multi-line dialer. I love calling 3 people at once. It's always been my thing. I've been doing this over a decade, 13 years or something now. But the spam likely stuff, when it came out, it wasn't that big of a deal. Right. But it definitely is now. So if, again, you're on that go high level single line dialer or some dialer that literally has one phone number, it could be a 3-line dialer. I'm looking at that other one out there, but it's a 3-line dialer with one phone number that you have purchased and go high level. That is also equally trash as doing it on one line at a time. It's actually might even be worse. And you'll find that within that first week of working on that, you're going to get scam likely, spam likely. It's going to happen. So even if you get people to pick up the phone, do you think they're going to buy from you when your caller ID says scam likely? Nobody does that. Nobody buys from people with scam likely caller ID. So when you just go to Kixie, I mean, you're going to look, I've gone through the gymnastics of trying to solve the scam likely, spam likely thing. And I have a methodology, and it's complicated and it's sort of functional, and it sucks to do that. So all we do is just use Kixie now, and it's all solved. It's fine. I don't think about it anymore. And when I have my agents call me on their Kixie line, it's always local to me. I'm 317. It's a 317 number, and it says their name right there on it. That's it.
Yep.
It's
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's cool.
And it's one of those things, I think a lot of people I talk to, their first impulse if they're trying to scale their business or they want to get some growth is, oh man, I've got to hire some more people to call all these leads I have in order to, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's like, you know what, maybe I just need to uptool myself first, because at the end of the day, spending a small fixed fee for myself for the entire month to make me 3 times as effective, 4 times as effective, 5 times as effective is a lot more cost effective than hiring 2 or 3 people to try and do the same. You know what I mean? As much as I'd love to help the Bureau of Labor Statistics improve and our unemployment numbers drop, I'd like to save you guys money even more. So I think, you know, the first thing is to make sure that you're using the best tool you can so that you're maximized. And then if you want to start hiring some people, maximizing them, go for it. You know what I mean?
Well, and it lowers for us, it's lowered our acquisition cost, right? So we don't have to buy as many leads to get as many pickups, right? So there's a less cost per seeing if an agent's going to do well, because we have a free lead program at the Dig Agency. So we're buying the leads, right? So
awesome.
Now that we've moved from what 30 to 60% thereabouts, I mean, think about that. You know, you don't need as many leads to get that fixed number you were getting at 30%. So it's less exposure for us financially to keep an agent busy at the same rate. So, you know, we're thrilled. David,
And
that's huge.
Oh, Tim, go ahead. Yeah.
I should mention that the work-life environment, I guess the work environment, the agents are much, much happier having conversations left and right than on your single line dialer. I know what you're doing. You're having conversations every few hours and your life is miserable and you don't want to do that anymore. We're having conversations every 15, 20 minutes with good. It's like just way better.
Yeah, that's so important, Tim. Yeah, because Tim and I are having this conversation the other day, David, and it's like our agents can work normal hours now. They're just not listening to a dial tone constantly. You know, like they're getting their conversations in quicker, faster, more reliably. That's huge because in this business, as in any sales business, it's a grind. You know, and to keep your head on psychologically a little better is a good thing too.
Yeah, and time is one of those resources that isn't, there's no other way to get it. Like it's a fixed interval you have so much time and there's no way to expand or contract. That's it. That's all you got. So really maximizing that time is so crucial, because you're right. At the end of the day, I'd much rather be having 3 hours of conversation than 6 hours of dialing with like an hour and a half of conversation. I mean, that will change the composition of your entire day, both psychologically and what you can do with the extra time. You know what I mean? It makes a huge difference, because again, especially if you're a solopreneur or something like that, you've got so many other aspects to your business you're trying to work on right now. You're trying to work on getting these leads. You're trying to work on existing customers. You're trying to work on like new next script. You're trying to hopefully watch podcasts just like this to learn even more about what to say once you're on the phone. The last thing you need to worry about is spending all of your day just waiting for a pickup. I mean, that's terrible. It's a terrible way to spend your day.
Agreed.
I realize,
I was going to say, wrap it up, David, and let's take a look under the hood, because I think
what I was
all
thinking
those
the
on here.
Same thing. I know from being on these podcasts, from watching podcasts like this, it feels like sometimes we're 22 minutes in and it's so much of a tease, right? You've heard about all these features, but for me, for something to be tangible, I need to see the thing. So luckily I brought Aldo with me. Aldo is a master of this, and he's going to actually show you exactly what the heck all of the things that we're talking about look like in practice. What does this dialer look like? How does it integrate with high level? How am I going to connect with 4 or 5 times as many leads as I was before? And how is all this going to track and record? Aldo, we gave you a whole bunch. Can you run with it?
Yes, I think I can run with all that. Thanks, guys. Hey, I'm Aldo. I'm a product manager here at Kixie, but I spent the last 4.5 years or so implementing solutions for businesses. And I want to walk you through, first of all, what the actual Power Dialer experience looks like, and also how to implement some best practices to actually help you reach out to your newest leads right away and continuously follow up with your colder leads until you're able to get to that yes or no, which is really a big part of what Power Dialing is all about. You want to efficiently move through a large list of prospects, connect with them, and either convert them or move them out of your CRM. So let me show you first what the actual Power Dialer looks like, and then we'll talk about some strategies as to how to actually fully utilize this so that you can be reaching out to your newest leads right away and continuously following up with your colder leads as they sort of go through your process. So without further ado, let me go ahead and log an outcome from my last call. And you can see I have several different sessions that I'm in right now, each with their own priority. But I've connected with someone. This is a target somewhere in Southern California. I'll just go ahead and end that call. But you can also see that my high-level CRM link appears right here. And if I click into it, I'm instantly taken to that record. So I have all of their information right in front of me. I can also map additional information right into the power dialer so it's easily accessible, including notes and things like that. And once I've had my conversation, I can log an outcome. And what I want to point out is that everything's going to log to this contact record in high level. So all of your activity from phone calls, text messages, and any dispositions that you log will all be visible right here as well. And that's in real time. So I'll go ahead and log an outcome, maybe
And
demo
your
scheduled. Go
recorded calls
ahead.
go straight into the notes section too.
I'm sorry?
The recorded calls go straight into the notes
Yes.
well, which is great.
Correct. That way you have a full record of everything going on and you can easily figure out where the person is in their journey. I can also send a quick SMS template. So I just made a phone call and I want to follow up with a text message. I can have several templates built in my dialer. I save and dial next. We send out that text and I'm on to the next one. And I can keep on doing this all day. All right. So this is what the power dialer experience looks like. You can dial up to 10 phone numbers at a time. Right now I have it set for 4 because I have a smaller list and I don't want to go through the whole thing right away. And let me actually show you a little bit about how we configure these power dialers and how we can actually help with something that we call speed to lead versus continuous follow-up. So the idea is that when your leads raise their hand and they come to you through some inbound marketing effort, you want to connect with them as quickly as possible while they're still engaged in searching for a solution. So we actually have the notion of prioritization in our power lists. What that means is I can create different buckets of power lists that my leads go through depending on where they are in their journey and how interested they are. So we do like a temperature check and say my hottest leads go into my highest priority power dial, where I call them once in this highest priority bucket instantly, and then I send them to a lower priority power dial. So it goes from highest to high to medium to lowest to low, or to low to lowest. And with the lowest tier, the lowest priority power dialer, you should just never stop calling them. Put them on an infinite loop where you just dial them over and over until you connect with them, disposition them out, or convert them to a paid customer. So we can actually waterfall them through higher to lower priority power dials. And one or more agents can be in this bucket dialing together so we can move through leads very quickly. I'm also going to show you a little about how we can automate some of this process for you. So what I recommend when you're first starting out with a Kixie power dialer, take your cold leads and import them directly into your lowest priority power dialer right away. Now you kind of have a baseline of leads that you want to keep on calling. But let me show you some automation instead of high level that can actually send new leads to your highest priority bucket instantly.
And just to give some context, Aldo's showing you the next level up. So you're on a single line dialer. You're picking up your cell phone and making calls. That's like level 1. We've jumped to level 2, which is being able to dial multi-line down a list, boom, 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 and connect with only people who pick up. Aldo's like, let's take it one step further. Let's say you've got a list of leads and you want to dial them, but maybe it's more than one list. Maybe you've got a list of old leads, you've got new leads coming in, you've got priority leads that are from David, and they're like big leads that are hot, and you want to get a hold of them before you start dialing these other leads. How do you manage all of this, right? Without you having to manually look and think about the lead and then make your calls. So that doesn't scale. Okay, sorry, I don't want to break the fourth wall, but no, like, it's awesome.
That's a great point that you just made, because another powerful component of the power dialer is that agents spend too much of their time trying to figure out who they're going to call next and having to go through their CRM. This is supposed to take all of that thought process out of it by creating a streamlined system that pushes your newest leads in right away and then keeps calling. That way, all you have to do is hit start dialing and you're calling the best person that you should be calling at that time. So let me go ahead and I'll show you exactly how I use some automation and high level to facilitate this. So like I was saying, it's a good idea to export your colder leads that are already in your CRM and put them in a lower priority power dialer. I would recommend setting that for infinite calling until you actually connect with them and get a chance to get that yes or no. But for newer leads, what you want to do is have an automated process where as soon as they enter high level, you automatically send them to your highest priority Kixie power dialer. You call them right away, you text them right away, and then you continue reaching out to them through a lower volume cadence. So you're not calling them as often, but maybe a couple times a day at different times of the day, every 3 hours or so, 2 to 3 times a day, and so forth. So what my trigger here is in the high level automation is contact is created. And then I push it into Zapier. where we have a couple of action steps. So first of all, I'm going to text them right away. Just let them know, hey, I received your online submission form, or however you reached out to me, and this is my phone number. You can call me or text me back at this number, and we can have that conversation. In the meantime, I'm going to try to reach out to you as well. And then I add them to my highest priority power dialer. So like I showed earlier, I have several power buckets here, and I'm going to reference my highest bucket and send them to that instantly. And I can map some data, like whatever they submit through their form, and have that easily available on the power dialer. But like I mentioned, there's also going to be a link to that contact record and high level in the power dialer itself, so you can always get the rest of the information from there.
And if any of this sounds complicated, two things. One, it is, so don't worry. You're not alone in thinking that. And two, we will do all of this for you. So I wanted to make sure like we did accomplish two things. We showed you everything that was possible, along with what it all entails. But two, that we're at the end of this, we're going to give you a quick, easy call to action, which is how you talk to literally Aldo himself or a team of people just like Aldo that will help you do all of this. So if you feel like a lot of this is technical stuff that's over your head, don't worry, you're not alone. And that's exactly what we're here for, exactly what we're here for.
That's exactly right. We've done this for thousands of businesses already. And it's great because we not only learn all the technical aspects of what goes into this, but we also pick up all the best practices. And then we design the dialer to sort of support those use cases. And so what we've seen is that what customers want is a way to be able to instantly call their warmest, hottest leads. And that could be based on anything. It doesn't have to be them necessarily only entering your CRM, but maybe they opened up one of your emails or attended a webinar recently. Anything that's meaningful that indicates they're still interested in what your solution is. And you should be reaching out to them right away to convert them while they're still thinking about it. And so this is basically how we power dial, and also how we build a process that helps you connect with your warmest leads right away and never stop reaching out to your colder ones.
So yeah, the point is that your newest leads go straight into your power dialer lists.
Yep.
And then the other thing that's really cool is that when you disposition a call as, let's say you got a bad number or a New York one that you can't work, so you got to trash it or do something with it, or you sold it and you disposition it as sold. We have it set, or well, actually Kixie set it up for us so that it'll just move my lead in this Go High Level CRM over to sold. I don't even have to touch it again. I literally just disposition it, lead moves to sold. I move on to the next. I honestly don't even care anymore. We used to go in there and drag them, drop them, do this thing. Or whatever other dispositions we have, like, pitched not sold, or trash or something like that. It'll literally move it over to the trash pipeline, the pitch not sold pipeline, automatically without the agents thinking about it or doing anything, but just moving on to the next call.
Yeah, and I want to stress here, so if you're a non-technical person, Kixie's going to help you with that. Like if you just don't know what Zapier is and webhooks and automations and your eyes are, drying over, don't worry. They'll help you out with this because it's a lot to learn, but makes all the difference. So
100%.
Don't be afraid.
And it's half the reason we jumped on this podcast is because I realized that so many people who aren't tech savvy, who aren't nerds like us, are at this unfair disadvantage right now in the sales marketplace. And that sucks. That sucks as a place to be, because then you go around looking for tools that might be top line tools. But what you end up finding is companies that, sure, they have a tool, but they don't help you get it set up in any meaningful way. Oh, and all their sales reps are outsourced and their support's outsourced, and you're dealing with a chat bot. And so if you're not tech savvy, you're just making a single dial at a time with your cell phone, while your compatriot, who might not even be as good of a salesperson, probably isn't as good of a salesperson, but they just have the technology down, is racing ahead with 10 dials at a time. And like Tim said, connecting with 60% of the leads. Like, I want to level the playing field a bit. And so that's largely why we built Kixie. That's really what we do. If you call into Kixie, I'll give you a call to action and everything at the end of this, but like, there is no outsourced support team. There is no outsourced chat bot that you're forced to deal with. Like, we are all based here in Santa Monica, California, and every one of us with either a previous salesperson or has been certified in sales technology, like for integration and stuff like that, because we don't want you to have to learn this stuff. You got enough to worry about. Believe me, you're not listening to these podcasts to get sales tips and tactics around Zapier integration. Like, it's not why you're on this podcast. You're listening to this because you want to be the best salesperson you can be. You want to up-level your life. And we want to take that technology component and just make you top of the line without you having to learn all of that stuff. And that's essentially what we do. So we have a whole partnership going on with David. We're helping get the word out so that people like you can take advantage of the latest technology without having to become experts in technology. It's not the best use of your time. You know what I mean?
Awesome, David. Well, anything else you want to hit on before we wrap it up and tell the viewers what next steps to take if they've liked what they've heard and they want to learn?
Yeah, I think it's a great natural next step point, because rather than dive back into all of this stuff over a call like this, I'd rather do it individually with those of you who are listening. And that's exactly what we're equipped to do. So you could go to Kixie.com, Kixie.com, which is fine, like Dixie with a K. But I actually want to give you guys an opportunity to get some red carpet treatment, because that way we'll know you came through David, and I will get you set up with a live agent who knows the context. Because the last thing I want you guys to do is sign up for a free trial of Kixie and then be met with a typical sales agent who knows nothing about you, asking, oh, how many agents? Are you in the tech sales space? Are you in? We know you are. We know you're in the insurance space. We know you listen to David's podcast. We know you're probably also a higher quality of salesperson than the typical salesperson who calls into Kixie. And all we need to do is supply you with the technology to be at the top of your game. So in the description of this YouTube video, I'm pointing down, but where I imagine it will be after this has been released on YouTube. There's going to be a description right there, and it's going to have a link. Okay, it's a calendar, and what that calendar is to set up a booking time with a real human who's based in Santa Monica, who knows all this technology, and will actually talk you and walk you through it. We're not going to send you a PDF of instructions like a booklet that you're never going to read with some technology that's going to be difficult to use. We're going to actually jump on a physical phone call with you. Imagine that. Get on a video just like this and actually help you get it set up and make sure you're successful. And that's really my goal for anyone who's listening to this podcast and calls in. We want to make you successful. And we're going to give you the tool to test out for free for a while, because we want to make sure it's something that works for you before you have to pay for anything. That's really kind of been our, 90% of our revenue comes from inbound leads, which means people who are happy with Kixie, who recommend it to other people, who then become happy with Kixie, who then recommend it to other people. And that's really important for us. So I would use the calendar link sticked right inside of here. You can email David, but he gets flooded with emails. You can email Dart, D-A-R-T, at Kixie.com, who's the guy who set this whole thing up, and he'd be happy to help you too. But that link is going to be by far the easiest way to get on a call with someone right away. And we will get you set up, and we'll make sure it's something that generates more revenue for you than it ever costs. And so it's a great financial investment for you to make before we ever charge you a cent. And that's something that's important to us.
Well, David, Aldo, and Tim, thank you for being here. Appreciate you very much. And again, for those of you watching below this video, you'll see the link. It says a Calendly on it. Just click that link and then set up a time. No obligation to check out more about how it works. There's a free trial, like David mentioned. Everything you want. We highly recommend this. It's made a huge difference for our agents, and see no reason why it would not make as huge of a difference for you out there. So, guys, thanks again for being here. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Thanks so much, David. Thanks so much, Tim.